There's a fear you carry every single day, but you never say it out loud. Not to your friends, not to your family, not even to yourself, because saying it would make it real, and making it real feels too dangerous. So you hide it, you bury it, you pretend it doesn't exist. You smile, you nod, you say you're fine. But late at night, when no one's watching, that fear whispers in your ear, and it says the one thing you're terrified to admit. This is the story of a man who spent his entire life running from a fear he couldn't name, until the day it finally caught up with him. His name was Vikram, 32 years old, good job, nice apartment, successful on paper. Everyone thought he had it all figured out, but Vikram lived with a secret, a fear so deep he never spoke about it, not because he was ashamed, but because he didn't know how to put it into words. Every morning, he'd wake up and go through his routine: work, gym, friends, parties. He stayed busy, always moving, always doing something, because staying busy meant he didn't have to think, and not thinking meant he didn't have to feel. But the fear was always there, hiding beneath every conversation, lurking behind every smile, waiting for the moment he'd finally stop running. One night, Vikram sat alone in his apartment. The silence was unbearable. He turned on the TV. Nothing helped. He scrolled through his phone. Nothing distracted him. The fear was louder than ever, and for the first time, he asked himself the question he'd been avoiding for years. What am I actually afraid of? He thought about all the usual answers. Failure? No, he'd failed before. He survived. Rejection? No, he'd been rejected. He moved on. Death? No, that wasn't it either. So what was it? What was this invisible weight he carried everywhere? And then, in that moment of silence, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of failing. He was afraid of succeeding. He wasn't afraid of being rejected. He was afraid of being accepted. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of living, really living. Vikram sat there stunned. His whole life, he'd been running from the wrong thing. He thought he was protecting himself from pain, but what he was really doing was protecting himself from life. Because life meant risk. Life meant vulnerability. Life meant showing up as who you really are, not who you pretend to be. And that was terrifying. What if people saw the real him and didn't like it? What if he tried his best and it still wasn't enough? What if he opened his heart and got hurt? So he played it safe. He stayed small. He chose comfort over courage. He built a life that looked good from the outside, but felt empty on the inside. And the worst part? He convinced himself this was enough. He told himself he was being smart, practical, realistic. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't being smart. He was being scared. That night changed something in Vikram. Not everything, not overnight, but something shifted. He started asking himself different questions. Not, what if I fail, but what if I don't even try? Not, what will people think, but what do I actually want? Not, what's safe, but what's true? And slowly, the fear started to change shape. It didn't disappear, but it stopped controlling him because he finally understood what it was. It wasn't a warning, it was a compass. Every time he felt that fear rising, it meant he was about to do something real, something that mattered, something that required him to show up fully. And that's when he made a decision. He would stop avoiding the fear. He would walk toward it. Here's what nobody tells you about fear. The fear you never talk about isn't the fear of something going wrong. It's the fear of something going right. It's the fear that if you actually tried, if you actually showed up, if you actually lived the way you know you're capable of living, your whole life would have to change. And change is terrifying, even when it's good. Because change means letting go of excuses, letting go of comfort, letting go of the version of yourself that plays it safe. Most people spend their entire lives protecting themselves from this fear. They build walls, they make excuses, they stay small. Not because they can't do more, but because doing more would require them to become more. And becoming more means stepping into the unknown, into uncertainty, into the possibility that you might actually be capable of greatness. And that is the scariest thing of all. Vikram still feels the fear every single day. When he's about to speak his truth, when he's about to take a risk, when he's about to be vulnerable, the fear shows up. But now, instead of running, he says, "Thank you." Because the fear reminds him he's alive, he's trying, he's becoming. And that's all any of us can ever really do. The fear you never talk about is the fear that you might actually be enough, and it's time to stop running from it. If this touched something in you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for stories that speak the truth you already know.